Welcome back to Pop Tabs, keeping tabs on all your pop culture topics. I'm your host, Matthew Yapp, and joining me today is...
Jeremy Rogers.
And Emily Reuben.
Emily, you're EIC.
I am, for now.
Yeah, and after that, it will be a new EIC. I'm just surrounded by my bosses. It's very fun. So, you know what's not fun?
What? Tinder.
And not just because nobody likes me on Tinder, but because Tinder is changing their desirability function. The popular dating app just announced that it's removing a feature that's been kind of implemented for a while. It's an algorithm, and basically the way it works is if you get swiped on a lot, you're going to be shown to other people who get swiped on a lot. So kind of the idea is really attractive people will be shown to other really attractive people, and not so attractive people who don't get swiped on quite as often, well, they don't get shown to the attractive people. So Tinder has decided that they're going to go ahead and change that. What are your initial thoughts?
Okay, so I've been thinking about this ever since you mentioned we were going to talk about it. And I personally think it's really gross. I just want to get that out of the way. But I guess the argument that could be made is there are so many dating sites for specific things, like J-Date, like Christian Mingle, like all those things. Maybe is desirability just another category for people that want desirability to be a factor?
It's almost like, without saying it, it's like, and this is hot people.
Yeah. So again, I think it's kind of gross. I don't think you're going to meet anyone of value if that's all you just care about. But if that's what you want, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, not being super familiar with how these dating apps really work, the first thing that popped into my mind was ooh, that's a weird reward incentive. The more time you engage with our app, the better results we're gonna give to you.
Right.
And that just seemed, I don't like that.
To me, it's, first off, I don't like it because that's such an objective thing. Because just because everyone swiped on you doesn't mean you're necessarily actually hot. Maybe you just photograph well. And also, who are you to say that a hot person 22 isn't going to think ugly person 19 is attractive? I feel like it's just a weird scale that you can't really, beauty is so subjective that you can't really gauge it with that kind of algorithm. But at the same time, I totally get it. Because the point of Tinder is it's a younger app, and they are more or less kind of pushing this idea that, hey, this is where all the hot people are. So it kind of makes sense that they would want all the hot people to be right on the forefront.
So could it, you know how Rotten Tomatoes got review bombed for Captain Marvel? Could the same thing happen to somebody on Tinder? If somebody didn't like you, if you were somewhat a public figure, could you not just get bombed by people that didn't like you?
I mean, I guess you could, but I think what the difference would be is you can't search for people on Tinder. They just kind of pop up. And then also it doesn't show that score. It's not this person is 92% hot. So,
dang it.
So I mean, you could go ahead and review bomb them, but it wouldn't show it in the same way. But if you see me, feel free to try. I don't have a Tinder. But that being said, they have announced that they're changing things, but kind of, not really, sort of, no one is sure. They announced on a blog post that our current system adjusts the potential matches you see, and every time your profile is liked or noped, any change will be seen within 24 hours. And that's what they said is their current system, and they said that they're changing it to be more reflective and immediate of what you're getting liked or noped. So nobody really knows, does that mean it doesn't save how many times you've been liked? It was just a very, very vague blog post that still makes it seem like it's being ranked by desirability.
It sounds like the same thing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the same thing, but with maybe a few more steps, maybe a few less steps. Otherwise, we still don't know how it works.
See, if I'm being honest, I think that Tinder, because it's been discussed lately that they have a desirability function, and at first they were yeah, that's just how dating apps work. But now they're saying this is an old-fashioned thing that doesn't work anymore. Our new desirability function is much more advanced and less superficial, but they didn't explain how, and so I think that this is just them giving very vague guidelines.
It sounds like they know that it's been criticized, so they're oh, we're changing it, but they just worded it so that they don't actually have to change much. Right. And what do they even mean? That's just how dating apps work. No, the other ones get along just fine. Why don't they just say that they're the hot people app?
again, is gross, but like you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, don't mind us. Yeah, I mean, sure, we were just doing this gross thing, and I mean, we did own up to it and say that's just what everybody does.
It'll be like that.
I mean, like, yeah, still use our app, please.
Here's the thing, I don't think it would hurt them that bad if they were just honest, because we have like sites like Seeking Arrangements where like it's a sugar daddy site, and like it ranks you by how much money you have, and you have to prove your proof of income and all this stuff, which, yeah, that's super gross, but like we all came on for it, you know?
If enough people are into it, then there's a market for it.
Right. And there's definitely a market for hot people, you know?
I just think it's funny. Like, you know, there are people that are joining thinking they're really hot, and then they're the ones getting like all the downvotes and swipes and everything. So I don't know, in that respect, is it that honest? Because you don't know where you're ranked.
Right. Because if it did give like a, you know how original old school Facebook, the whole idea behind Face Mash was that it was supposed to take girls from college campuses and like rank them against each other. If it was doing that, I would say, yeah, that's kind of like grody, but it's not showing how hard you are. It's not like when your profile pops up, it says like 2,000 people have disliked this guy, maybe you should too. Like,
it's also like if they did that, it'd be like, unlike Face Smash, the way it was, like that wasn't voluntary. They didn't know they were
they
on
just
there.
took pictures of girl from their college campus.
But it's like there's a subreddit that's like rate me. And
Yeah.
if you upload your like with the intent of being rated, then I mean, that's on you.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
I think Face Smash, I agree with you guys that I mean, with Face Smash, it's not consensual. When you put yourself out there, you are, you know, you're volunteering for this in a way. So on one level, it's like, yeah, they're not telling you what your score is, but you signed up for it, bucko.
Right. Do we think, because there's been criticisms of dating apps in the past, that they're just like crazy superficial, that none of it's real, that it's all just like this whole thing? Do you think that this kind of plays into that idea?
That's hard to say because people actually do find matches that they go on to have long and successful relationships with, and I'm not here to say that their relationships aren't superficial, but I think the process is largely superficial. Like, you're not usually, a lot of people, there's so much room to not be truthful, to put on a fake like personality and a facade, that it's often very hard to distinguish who is and is not right for you.
Right.
It's also difficult, especially for women, and that's why Bumble was made, so that women had more of an like, they could say who they did and did not want to talk to, because it's a lot harder for women to just not get messages looking for sexual encounters, you know, unprompted. So I think the process definitely is. That doesn't mean you can't have success with it.
Agreed.
I think it's important that when you're using a dating site that you're very conscious of how you're using it. You know, it's important that you don't use it as a replacement for, you know, other things. It's great as a supplement to help you meet people, but if you're just using it so that you have an excuse not to go out and to just maintain online relationships, I feel like that's kind of on you as a user.
I've never personally liked Tinder just because, like we've said, it's you don't get to like see everyone's profiles and pick. You have to just swipe left or right based on very little, and you can't choose. It's like they kind of come to you. So I think it is kind of gross and superficial. It feels like a shopping thing to me almost.
Yeah.
Like it's just people passing by and you picking or choosing, and I don't think that's great. And then, I mean, I know people who specifically use Tinder where they don't try to match with people. All they do is they just want to see if someone will like them, which again, it just feels kind of gross and impersonal. So do you guys think that at the end of the day, this kind of change is going to help or hurt Tinder?
I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I think the people who are going to Tinder are going there for a very specific purpose, and that this sort of a change isn't really going to get in the way of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they're hardly changing anything, so.
I don't think they're actually changing the app, and I think like 6 people were thinking about the algorithm as it was. So I really don't see things changing. But something that has changed is the Harry Potter universe, because J.K. Rowling is really feeling herself right now. Yeah. In an interview included on the DVD for The Crimes of Grindelwald, she spoke about the romantic relationship between Albus Dumbledore and Grindelwald. And she didn't just stop there, though. She said that it was incredibly intense, it was passionate, and it was a love relationship. Later going on to talk about their sex life and how that was also an intense thing. So what are your initial thoughts on this?
Why? Like, this is a children's book series, first off.
Yeah.
You know, this is why people employ death of the author all the time, because we don't want the author to come in and just keep adding things and ruining the story.
What's death of the author?
Okay, so it's kind of goes back to like authorial intent. So do we view what the author says as absolute fact, or do we allow a lot of it up to the interpretation of the reader? And people will fight for either side, but I'm kind of like a mix. In this case, I think it's time to just pretend J.K. Rowling is not a part of the Harry Potter lore, universe, or anything, and just read the books again.
In the case of just specifically J.K. Rowling, please pretend it doesn't exist.
I mean, I came away with this with one main question. What is a love relationship?
As opposed to anything strange phrasing. They weren't quite dating, but they were in love, you know?
Like, we already had this sort of subtext that's been hinted at in everything else, but now suddenly it's a love relationship.
That is a really weird way to phrase it. Yeah, I am also of the belief, I wish she would just pull it back. I think it's very odd that she's adding all these things to, like you said, a children's book series, because, you know, it did have it's expanded out to everyone, but I think it's started with definitely children and young adults. Don't get me wrong, I don't think including homosexuality is wrong at all. I am behind that, I think it should be. But the sex lives of characters is really, really weird. Like, really weird. And then, in fact, there was immediate backlash based on the fact that she has a tendency to add what she calls representation to the series now that the books are over. And she's been going back and saying, well, you know, this character was gay, and this character was this, and there was black students at Hogwarts, even though I never mentioned them. And
this was an allegory for the AIDS crisis.
Yeah, that's a real weird one.
Even though we have characters who are specifically going out and infecting other people with this. That's our representation right now.
Oh.
That's iffy.
It's iffy.
That's a whole discussion.
Thanks, JK.
It's really strange because, like, I don't think she would have as much, like, backlash in terms of diversity if she didn't keep bringing attention to the fact that she keeps adding it in like, a not authentic way. Like, It doesn't feel like she cares so much that she's like, well, you know, I'm really woke. And Hermione, she was actually black. I didn't mention anything about that or, like, you know, describe her in any way, but she was. And everyone's like, you know, it would have been fine.
You could have said that.
If Hermione was black, but, like, literally in some of the books, there are, like, drawings.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's just very strange. Like, it doesn't feel real. Like, she doesn't care.
That's my issue, is it doesn't feel like she cares. It feels like she's just like, yeah, I haven't done this for a minute. I'll toss it out that there's a Jewish kid in Hufflepuff. Why not?
Of course it'd be Hufflepuff. Of course you'd
I'm a Hufflepuff.
I know, but like, okay, you couldn't put us in Gryffindor. We're in that one that's like never talked about ever.
I like Hufflepuff.
I do too. I'm just saying.
Cedric Diggory's a great character.
But like, you have to admit, kind of the weird people tend to go. I'm just saying.
Fine, Emily Reuben, I will give you better Jewish representation.
That's where I'd be.
There was a Jew in Gryffindor.
Let's not write a story about it. Like, I mean, you have all of Pottermore to write stories and stuff. Let's just put it in like a 280 character tweet.
Yeah.
That's the representation that we're gonna give people. It's fine.
Right, and that's the thing. It has gotten so ridiculous to the point where it is a meme right now, like a meme where literally no one, and then J.K. Rowling spouting off some very strange fact. But do you guys think that there is good intent behind it, that this actually is representation, or do you think this is her just trying to pull that limelight once again?
It hurts because J.K. Rowling was such an inspiration for me growing up, but it's very obvious that this is not, even if she thinks it's good intentioned, it's so manipulative because she's trying to associate her name with diversity and not actually be diverse. She didn't write it with the intent of diversity.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think it's authentic at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if she was really going for this, like, I am all for representation and I'm going to use my platform to give it to the people, maybe we would see it in the, the Fantastic Beast movies where you have power over the scripts.
They're super, super vague and finally just half hinted at the end representation in that movie.
Great, we've gotten to the point of Disney's Beauty and the Beast. Good. So glad we're here, JK.
So
you
that's
did
where
it.
we're at right
Going
now.
at
Proud
it,
of you.
Joanne. No, I think she has good intent. I do think that. But what I would have to say is you didn't write a diverse book. And you wrote a fantastic series. I love Harry Potter, one of my favorite series of all time. Love it, but it's not diverse, and so you can't change that now. What I would recommend is, like you said, she has a lot of works going on right now. You can make those diverse. And she has made some steps. We have a Korean woman, which she turned into a snake lady, so
But there were clues, she said. There were clues in the original books that pointed to that, so you can't say that it was just something that she put in now, okay? Yeah. You can't say that because it's not true.
Well, in the series, the manipulative woman character who is Asian, Cho Chang, that's really the only diversity we got, and it wasn't framed in a good light.
Blaze.
Okay.
Who died.
Yeah. All right.
Had a black character. He's dead now.
I think the movies had 5 black kids.
Yeah.
And I think it's more diverse than her book, and that's not good.
Oh, there were the Patels.
Okay, yeah.
The girls who were just kind of there because Harry and Ron.
Once again, Asian love interests.
Yeah, they just. They didn't think of asking anyone to the Yule Ball, so they were just there to be like, oh, here's the consolation prize.
Also, one of them did die too, so.
I think the more we talk about this, the worse case we're making.
It's not, yeah. I really was trying, so that's unfortunate. But why do you think that she is persisting almost? Because nevertheless, she persisted, and she keeps doing this over and over and over again, even though every time it happens, people are like, hey, we don't want this, you're not helping things, this isn't diverse. Why do you think she keeps doing it?
Well, one reason is publicity. Even if you think of all the memes about her right now going on Twitter, she's getting so many so many mentions. People are writing entire articles about this, and it's bringing Harry Potter into a conversation when it wasn't really at all.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on. 2, I don't think she's bad intended. She doesn't have bad intentions, but if she really does want to be diverse, I could see why she doesn't want to acknowledge that what she wrote wasn't diverse, and maybe that's why she's thinking she can rewrite it. I don't know if I believe that, but devil's advocate.
I mean, to the point about it being for publicity, good job, Matt, for choosing this topic. Now she wins.
Yay! I like Joanne, I'll let her win.
But I think that one of the big reasons is probably something along the lines of queer baiting, when she announced that Dumbledore was gay, and then we were getting a prequel series, and whoa, it was going to feature Dumbledore. Everyone was super excited. They were like, hey,
and
maybe we're going to actually see some representation here. And then everyone was like,
no.
Why? Why isn't it there?
Because don't worry about it.
And so if she puts this sort of representation into her works now, what she makes next will suddenly have a bigger audience because everyone will be like, oh, well, will she follow through on this? Finally. Will she?
No, I do. I think it's mostly a publicity thing. You're welcome. Because, first off, Crimes of Grindelwald didn't do great. The series was pulling back a bit, and she's got 3 more movies to make. So, I think probably like you said, expand that audience, get more people talking about it, and I think that's unfortunate, and I wish I thought she had better intentions, but I don't.
No, and it's really sad too, because the more she posts these things, the more apparent that she isn't that great of a writer, at least to me. I know that might be a hot take, but it's just, she hasn't been successful outside of Harry Potter. The book she wrote did not do well. It was an adult book, I don't remember what it was, but it's really sad because I think the legacy she has is so great that if she just stopped or even just moved on to something else, she'd still be revered so
Oh yeah,
highly.
she could still be one of the greatest authors of all time. She was the first person to become a millionaire from just writing books. Yeah, she could have just held on to that legacy, but she kept pulling.
Why are you like this?
You know who else we don't know who they're like? That was a sentence. James Gunn, what are you doing? Because James Gunn is back, gang. So after a controversial firing in July, Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn has been rehired by Disney to return and direct the third movie in the Guardians of the Galaxy series. So, what are your guys' initial thoughts on this?
So this is cancel culture, correct?
A bit.
A bit of cancel culture. His tweets are problematic, but I think the issue is more so that people maliciously went to his account, went back as far as they could to find any dirt they had on this man, and they had to go back, from what I gather.
Yeah, the tweets that he got fired for were for several years ago, and they were about pedophilia.
So I think it's fair to bring those things up, but to completely fire him, I think, was an overstep. I do believe people can change, and I think they should be held accountable for what they said in the past, but accountability doesn't have to be ruining somebody's career, depending on what they say.
Yeah.
I personally don't think this was enough to warrant the reaction it got, but I understand why Disney did it, because they work with kids, their entire audience is children. Yeah. So I don't blame them, and if I was CEO of Disney, I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So, first off, James, who's definitely watching this right now.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the fold, to the Marvel fold. Congratulations, you did it, buddy. But
good job ducking out of DC, because that would be a mistake with their movies.
The Suicide Squad is looking like a great film.
It sure is.
But on the subject of the initial firing, it's like, this had already been litigated in the public.
Yeah.
People had already brought these tweets up, these jokes. James Gunn had already apologized and had already begun work on trying to be not that same person who would make those jokes before. And from the accounts of people who were near him and who were close to him, they were like, yeah, he is better. He doesn't make that sort of shock humor sort of stuff anymore. That's not his bread and butter. And so it's like, all right, thanks, Disney. You were super late to the party. It was a big controversy back around the times of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie when he was announced as the director for that. So why? Why did we let him go?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't like cancel culture too much, but I like pedophilia jokes even less.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, I think because I read the tweets, they were disgusting. We're not even going to mention them because they're just really, really gross things. And so personally, I was okay with the firing. I was pretty behind it. Like you said though, I was behind it back when they were first choosing a director. I wasn't keen on them picking James Gunn because of his controversial past. I totally agree that people can change, but I don't have to forgive him. Disney did, and that's totally fair. I just not really interested in the Guardians of the Galaxy series for that. I was thinking maybe when the third one came out with a different director, I would see it. Not really interested anymore. And so I really do think it comes down to Disney did fine with the first ones. They were financially successful, and they'll probably continue to be financially successful. It's just that audience of people like me who really don't want to kind of support that sort of thing. I think they've lost that, and I think Disney's calculated for that, and I think that's fine. But he wrote on Twitter saying, I'm always learning and willing to continue to work at being the best human being I can be. I deeply appreciate Disney's decision. Like we've said, there's cast members who were supporting him, namely Dave Bautista saying he would lead the series, and a lot of people saying that he had changed. So do you think that had to do with the Disney's decision? Was the cast?
Hard, because what it boils down to is Disney doesn't care about ethics so much as they care about the bottom line, money. So them firing wasn't necessarily, in the first place, it wasn't oh gosh, we have to be ethical. It was that they were nope, we can't afford the backlash from this. And to rehire him, I'd say the cast, if they've threatened to quit, yes. But I think more so the public as a whole coming together, because I've seen a lot of support for him. Coming from actors outside the cast, just people that are fans of the series, fans of him. So it's hard to say why exactly. I think they just realized that the financial loss they'd get from people with a different director would be worse than having James Gunn.
That's valid. I kind of disagree, though. I feel like just because, like, the whole James Gunn fired this new guy, Taika Waititi, he's the new director. Is the Guardians series going to be good? I feel like that controversy would have had so much, like, kind of spin on it that people would have gone and seen it.
Oh, I think people would have seen it. I just think that the conversation, like, as a whole towards James Gunn, like, might have made people less likely to support it.
Valid. Okay.
I kind of disagree. That I think that if they had made that decision to stay with the new director, I feel like they would have lost a lot of their audience, because I feel like the reason people liked Guardians of the Galaxy was because it struck a different tone from the typical Marvel movie, and a lot of people associated that with James Gunn as a director, and with him no longer being a part of the project, a lot of people would be like, oh, well, if it's not going to be that, it's either going to be a cheap imitation of what James Gunn would do, which is most likely going to be bad, or it's, just going to be something different, and then, why am I going to go see a Guardians of the Galaxy movie?
Right. I think a lot of it did have to do with the cast, because like you said, Disney cares about their bottom line, and at the end of the day, a Guardians of the Galaxy movie is going to be profitable, but you can't really make that when you've lost a large portion of your cast on top of your director.
Yeah.
I'm sure they probably could have pulled something. I don't think it would have been great. And I also do think a lot of it is just like public outcry, really. Because like we said, people were really supporting it. And honestly, no matter what movie would have come out, it could have been amazing, but all the fanboys would have been like, well, if James Gunn would have done this, it would have been better. This was terrible.
I'll also say that to James Gunn's credit, when this second wave of controversy about these tweets did finally pop up, he responded a bit differently than other people who have been put in these similar situations of having their problematic past laid out. He was just like, yep, I said that, it was terrible, I fully would not do that again, and whatever happens to me happens, because this kind of stuff just should never be said by anyone, and I'm okay with the consequences. Disney has to do what they have to do. And I feel like that kind of response helps Disney in their narrative of being like, you know what, James Gunn is such a stand-up guy. He took this news so well, and you know what, he's shown tremendous growth and strength of moral character since then. So whether or not you agree or disagree with, whether or not he has earned this comeback, this is probably one of the least controversial comebacks that Disney could be making.
That's valid. That being said, a lot of people are saying that this is the end of cancel culture, and that all the people who have been fired for controversial things that happened in the past, they're all about to get rehired.
Yay!
Do you guys think that's the case?
No. I don't know how you could actually believe that. Okay, first off, think of all the terrible things people have said,
Lots
just like on the whole.
Lots.
So, just as a whole, we're just going to let them all back. No consequences at all? Cool. Great.
James Gunn's back, man. Why not?
And also, I'm going to say the two words that are probably going to not make people happy. White privilege.
Yeah.
White privilege.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, God.
Yeah. I would say there's a reason that this conversation and the way we're discussing this is a lot different than the Kevin Hart pop tab we had a few weeks ago. Check it out. But what do you think? Do you think the cancel culture's dead?
No,
No.
it's not. I mean, we were just talking about all the weird, unnecessary, problematic things that J.K. Rowling keeps tweeting about, and how that's inspiring us to have a lot less enthusiasm for her series. And so, so long as someone is still letting J.K. tweet, cancel culture is going to be alive and well.
Valid. I think people will literally always be mad. And companies literally don't care about ethics, they care about money. And so it just depends on how mad people keep getting. So since you can't really ever get people to stop being mad, people are never going to stop being fired over it. But that being said, what are your closing thoughts on this or anything else we talked about today?
People are very reactionary. Wow.
Yeah.
Swiping left is rejecting, right? That's
Yes.
the nope. All right, so swipe left on J.K. Rowling, swipe right on James Gunn. You know what? I'm for it.
I say, James Gunn, work it out, man. You just do your best. J.K. Rowling, do better. And Tinder, you doing what you do anyways, so. That's been Pop Devs. I've been your host, Matthew Yapp. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and thanks for watching.
So in the corner of the shot, right here, we can see this bag on the table. Should we keep it for continuity? Should we poof it away for a magical transition?
We definitely shouldn't put it there.
I think we should move it gradually.